Hey everybody, I realized I have not done a health update in a hot minute, so I thought I would go over that. But before we jump into that, I want to thank LMNT for sponsoring this video. This is something that I've used throughout most of my journey now. It is an electrolyte mix that has the sodium, magnesium, potassium in it that help me with the muscle cramps, fatigue, headaches, all these sorts of things, going through carb withdrawals, and the fact that I now am quite active, paddleboarding, hiking, walking, those kinds of things. And the best part is it doesn't have any crap in it. Right now, LMNT's offering an 8-pack sample pack free with any purchase. You just need to go to drinklmnt.com/carnivorous meat. That's drinklmnt.com/carnivorous meat. Okay, so let's jump into where I started, how it's gone, and where I'm at with my health. By now, you probably should know, or if you don't know, I've lost 121 pounds. I will weigh myself again the end of July, and we'll see where I'm at from there. However, I started with 16 different comorbidities. I have a list on my website. Why? Because it's 16 and I actually can't remember because I'm not at that anymore. Let's go over it real quick. I was a type 2 diabetic. I had metabolic syndrome, which includes things like morbidly obese, elevated triglycerides, all that fun stuff, scleroderma, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis, sleep apnea, GERD, elevated triglycerides, rosacea, PCOS, hepatic steatosis, which is fatty liver, peripheral edema in my lower extremities, severe depression, severe anxiety, severe back pain, and tinea versicolor. Okay, that is a mouthful. Let's quickly go over each of them and kind of where I was at. I was 32 at 360 pounds having to use a walker, okay? That is where I started a year ago. I was a type 2 diabetic. I only had to take oral medication, metformin, to control my diabetes. I did not use any type of exogenous insulin. My diabetes were sort of managed by the metformin. I was not very good about taking it. I will be very honest about that. Metabolic syndrome, it just happens when you're morbidly obese. Everything gets out of whack and no fun stuff. Morbidly obese, scleroderma, fibromyalgia, RA. I had autoimmune symptoms from the time I was about 17, 18 years old. It took a bit to be diagnosed. They initially thought I had lupus, but as technology advanced, better blood tests, it actually turns out I have scleroderma. Okay. The RA, I have a lot of joint pain, and to be honest, who knows where one autoimmune issue starts and the other stops. They all just kind of like bundle together. It was pretty bad. Writing things by hand killed my hands. I had to stop doing any sewing, leather working. Honestly, using the computer, typing for an hour killed my hands. My elbows, my shoulders, my knees, my ankles. Yes, of course, being overweight did not help any of this. It made it a lot worse. I had Raynaud's phenomena, which blood circulation cuts off to one or multiple fingers at a time. It's quite painful when the blood starts coming back. I'd have times where I'd have extremely hypersensitive skin. Just my clothes either touching my skin or the wind going across my skin would be painful. Like someone was holding a match to my skin. It was no fun. It limited me and it was painful. Sleep apnea. I snored like a freight train. I had obstructive sleep apnea. I had tons of fat around my neck. I had fatty tongue. If you didn't know, that is actually a thing. I had all of that. I had GERD, gastrointestinal reflux disease. I could not eat a single thing. That did not give me indigestion. Lettuce, indigestion. Ice cream, indigestion. Banana, indigestion. Chicken, breast, indigestion. It did not matter what I ate. By the point right before I started carnivore, everything made me sick all the time. The worst part was when I have GERD at night, I would actually vomit acid up, then wake up choking on my own vomit. My throat would constrict, trying to protect my airway, but then you can't breathe when your airway's closed. Those are some really scary nights. I don't know if anybody else has experienced that. I mean, obviously they have, but I don't know if you have. Those are really scary moments when you wake up and you can't make your own body breathe. And eventually you start gasping for air. Elevated triglycerides. I was eating a crap diet. No wonder. Rosacea. Rosacea is usually tied with autoimmune issues. I believe it's type 1 rosacea, where it causes damaged spider veins and stuff on the skin. It doesn't really do much more than that for the type I have. You can see I have still, well, that's because I got punched in the face by my walker. That's a different story. But you can see a little bit of the spider veins going on still. Hepatic steatosis. I had I had stage 1 fatty liver, almost to stage 2 fatty liver when I started this. I was not taking any drugs for this, by the way. Peripheral edema. I had really bad, like +2 pitting edema in my lower legs, to the point where I couldn't actually see. I had no ankle. I had a cankle. I couldn't see anything but like a blob of leg. It was so bad. I'd wear compression stockings pretty much all day long. Unless I had my feet elevated, my feet swelled. And some of the harder ones: severe depression and severe anxiety. I've been on antidepressants since I was 12. I had some childhood trauma, didn't deal with it well, and I've been taking them ever since then. My depression was so bad, I'd wake up towards the end every morning and look at my husband and tell him I wish I hadn't woken up. I did not value myself as a human being. I saw myself as pretty much scum. I had no value, and I was taking up precious resources just breathing. My anxiety, as I gained weight, got worse too. I wouldn't leave the house for months at a time. I worked from home. My husband went and got the groceries. Why? Why leave the house? You know, if you're pond scum, then you don't need to put your existence out in the world. And so there would be times I wouldn't leave the house. And I mean literally not step out the front door. Severe back pain. This was the main driver of why I had to use a walker at 32. My low back would hurt so bad after just walking a couple hundred feet that I would have to sit down. And I mean have to sit down, like I would shove someone out of their chair to sit down because the pain hurt so bad, or my legs would give out. Like it was debilitating pain. And I used a rollator because it had a seat, just FYI. I still actually have that in the garage to look at it intermittently and remind me of where I started. And Tinea versicolor. That is just a pretty much skin fungal infection. It's a yeast infection because my body's immune system was so taxed that it's not able to fight off the excess growth on the skin, and it leaves like these splotchy blobs everywhere. Initially, I had it like in the bend of my arms, and then it went everywhere. My whole back, my shoulders. It is more of a cosmetic thing. It's not good because it does tax your immune system, but it's not like being a type 2 diabetic. All right, that is where I started. So how's it gone? It's been a year, a little bit more, a few days more than a year. Life has drastically changed. We already know I've lost the 121 pounds, but what does that translate into health changes? Let's go through the list again, but slightly different. I am no longer a type 2 diabetic. And I don't mean my glucose is controlled. I mean I have reversed my type 2 diabetes. My A1C last checked was 4.9. By the way, if you want to see any of this blood work, you can go to my website, thecarnivoresme.com, to see it. Having a low A1C is great, but it doesn't actually mean you're not a diabetic anymore. How I know I'm not a diabetic? Well, it's 1, because I can pass the 3-hour glucose test, but 2, because my fasting insulin started above 13, it is now 7. That means I'm no longer insulin resistant. I am considered to have within normal range of insulin, which is amazing. That means I'm not a type 2 diabetic. Just being able to say that is amazing. I just have to say this. Okay, 2, metabolic syndrome. I technically still fall into this because I still have about another 90 pounds to lose. And because my LDL cholesterol is slightly higher than what they want it as, but I'm almost out of that category, so that's all right. Morbidly obese. I have dropped 2 categories of morbidly obese. I am now class 1, and over the next year, I'm going to get to a normal weight. no longer considered even obese. But we'll get there. Scleroderma, fibromyalgia, rheumatoid arthritis. All of this has gotten 95% better. I can work on the computer, no problem. I went from hardly being able to move and walk because my joints hurt so bad to now I walk, bike, hike, paddleboard, all of that. It's amazing. The hypersensitivity in my skin, gone. The Raynaud's, gone. I haven't had it since probably a month into carnivore. I have had not one single episode happen to me. Oh, did I also mention that you see me wearing glasses, right? Every single, and this is something that just occurred to me, every single 2 years, go to the eye doctor, I'd have to get a stronger and stronger prescription. I've had the same prescription now since I started. I had my glasses done right before I did carnivore, and then I broke some and had to have them done again. Plus I have to go yearly to have my eyes checked for medication I take for the autoimmune stuff. Zero change in my eyesight, which is good because I always have to, get a stronger prescription. Eventually I'll have Coke bottle glasses at the rate I was going. Scott had to have those as a kid. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm not. I'm really not.
I can see Mars with my glasses.
I actually go to the rheumatologist, the new one, Monday. Today is Thursday. I will do a very specific update because she did a ton of blood work on that. And then I get to compare to when I saw the rheumatologist, a different one 2 years ago, that blood work to the new blood work. It'll be very interesting because I actually haven't compared them yet to see how they do plus what this new rheumatologist says. Fingers crossed, I'm hoping we can drop a diagnosis or two off of that. Elevated triglycerides. I started at 343, if I remember exactly, with my triglycerides, which is high. I'm now at 115, which is really good. I mean, those are excellent. So boom, that one gone. Rosacea. I still, as we talked about a minute ago, I still have a little bit of spider vein damage. There is nothing that can fix that except having laser treatment on the skin. But it has gotten less red, less inflamed, and it has not advanced at all. Boom, gone. Hepatic steatosis. I no longer have fatty liver. I had an ultrasound. Well, first I knew I had fatty liver because my liver enzymes were way out of whack. And when your liver gets damaged, the cells start lysing and breaking open and all this stuff gets elevated, which shouldn't be. It has slowly come down, but I also had a liver ultrasound done. No longer fatty liver. Gone. Peripheral edema. Within the first 30 days, it was gone. I do not experience edema at all unless I have some carbs, because come to find out, it's like a 2-to-1 ratio. These are not exact numbers, but for every gram of carb you have, you maintain, or your body holds on to 2 grams of water. It's a 2-to-1 ratio about. So no carbs, no swelling. Even if I do have carbs, I don't have that like +2 pitting edema in my legs at all. The hard ones. Severe depression. As I said before, I have been on antidepressants since I was 12. I now take less antidepressant. My depression is immensely better too. Honestly, I think it's gone. It's not that I don't have sad moments, but it's not this rain cloud of doom all the time. To the point where my depression, some days I didn't want to get out of bed. Some days I wouldn't even leave the floor I fell asleep on. Like, if I was upstairs, I wouldn't even go downstairs because what's the point of life? I didn't want to live. And I think I noticed about 4 or 6 weeks into carnivore, I no longer woke up and told my husband I wish I hadn't woken up. My value of myself, I realized, was not tied to how much I weighed. And the biggest thing is I discovered I have value. When you've lived in a cave, or it feels like you've lived in the darkest, deepest cave forever, never any light existing, and then you finally wake up one day and you realize sunlight is a thing. That's what it feels like. I don't care what happens to me, whatever, I'll lie here, even the house is on fire, it doesn't matter, the numbness, while also feeling deep agony and pain, it is all gone. Now, I want to preface this with carnivore is not a miracle thing. What it did is it opened up the space available for myself and my mind to deal with the problems I had. I was so consumed with all the bad food and the chemicals and seed oils and all the crap that I just couldn't deal with it. And the way I did deal with it was by eating. By eating, I didn't have to feel my feelings or deal with the past issues. Taking that away, that is what immensely gave me the ability to work on my mind and my depression, which also my anxiety. My anxiety would panic attacks. My poor husband would be like, I'm like, oh my God, the world is ending. We're gonna be homeless. You just huffed. I don't know how he lived with me and survived me because it was real terrible.
I just needed a deep breath. That's it.
Yeah. He could just be breathing and I'm like, oh, the world's ending. Back pain. I think this is like my number 2 most proud. I still have that walker and I still, like when I go out to the car to the passenger side, I still see it sitting there parked in the corner, and I probably will keep it forever as a reminder because it had to be a bariatric 4-wheeled walker, which is a rollator, because I was so big. I couldn't even use a standard rollator. I had to use the big person rollator. Within 5 or 6 weeks, I no longer had to use it. Didn't mean I could walk miles, but I was able to go from barely making it from our house to a couple houses, having to sit, panting, sweating like I ran a marathon, to our house, the end of the street, our house, end of 2 streets. And eventually I'm like, you know what? It's going to be hard and painful, and it was. And a couple times I had to sit on the curb because I needed to sit down and I didn't have it, but it was gone. My back pain slowly got better and better the more weight I lost, because a lot of my weight was in my abdomen. Here's the thing, if this is your spine and this is your abdomen out here, what it does is we have a curve in our low back called the lordotic curve. It's very specific, but when you add, if you've been a pregnant woman, you know what this feels like towards the end. If you add all this frontal abdominal weight, it pulls that curve and hyperextends that curve, which puts a lot of pressure on the vertebrae in the spine. It is very painful. Weight loss, strengthening my core by just basically moving around. I was sitting and laying all the time. It takes no core strength to do that. Laying down is just like being a noodle, you know? I want to say 2-3 months in, most of the back pain was gone. The only time I felt it is when I walked. And then I sat down, it was fine. Now, 0 back pain unless I do something really stupid or a few other random positions, but that's more because I have some damage in my vertebrae. But again, paddleboard, hiking, biking, walking every single day. The last one is, actually the last 2, just kidding, the polycystic ovarian syndrome. I had to have that ovary removed when I was 17, 18, I can't really remember very well. I had very abnormal cycles. I would bleed extremely heavy, and I mean extremely to the point that sometimes I think I needed to have gone to the emergency room. I was having such issues with it, pain, cramps, irritability, wanted to murder everybody, including my own self. That is so much better. Holy cannolis. I could go 3 months without a cycle, and then I could go 2 weeks and then have one. It was so abnormal, irregular. Now it is literally down to the day, which I love and hate all at the same time. The cramping, almost completely gone. I don't cramp before. The day of, I'll have a little bit, nothing too bad. Don't need to take any, over-the-counter medicine for it. Gone within, 4 to 6 hours of what little pain there might be. And my cycle is completely spot on, regular, no longer having to think I need to go to the emergency room. Things have leveled out. The flow is probably a quarter of what it was. This is TMI for guys, but ladies, let me tell you, if you PCOS, you know what I'm talking about. It is so terrible. And the actual last one, the tinea versicolor, gone. Within 2 months, it was pretty much gone. I didn't do any, like, I went to the doctor, creams, put this on, get rid of it. I didn't change anything with medication. I literally just did carnivore and it disappeared. I have not a drop on me anywhere. I don't have any rungle. I don't have any fungal rashes. I don't have anything. That is where I'm at. I am like a completely different person. So my last like comorbidities is technically metabolic syndrome, which includes that morbid obesity. The 3 autoimmune. That's all I got. That's all I got left. Hopefully we're going to drop 2 of those autoimmune things off and be down to 2, and then eventually scleroderma. But I don't know if I'll ever be able to cure that. But as long as I can keep it in remission, I don't care. As far as one thing I didn't mention, when I started this, I was taking metformin, hydroxychloroquine for the autoimmune. I was taking my antidepressant. I just blanked on what it's called. Fluoxetine, which is AKA, I don't remember the brand name, but fluoxetine. I currently take half the dose of fluoxetine, and I take half the dose of hydroxychloroquine. I do take a multivitamin. I agreed to the doctor about that. I take D3 and LMNT. That's all I take now. So technically 2 prescription drugs. I'd like to, eventually I'm going to get off the antidepressant, however long that's going to take. I've been slowly weaning myself down because, 21 years of antidepressant. And then the hydroxychloroquine, I am tapering myself down. I'm okay if it takes me another 6 months or a year, but as long as I can eventually get off those 2, then I will be prescription drug free. I'll be drug free. That is where I'm at. I hope if you are considering doing this, look at where you're at. Look at where you can go. It is a drastic change, but let me tell you, what was more drastic was being 32, using a walker, unable to wipe my butt because I was so overweight and in so much pain. Life was suffering. It was miserable breathing every moment of every day. It is not like that now. I love waking up and going for my morning mile with my husband and my 3 dogs, walking more miles with the puppies, biking, hiking, paddleboarding. Even if you're not an outdoor person, all the small things that we miss in life. You can do this. I believe in you. If no one else does, I absolutely do. And I appreciate you guys so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.